Welcome to Figure Feedback. My name is Jeremy, and today I want to talk about this resin here from Jamg He. This is their Art-Engineering resin. I've used this company's resins for a while now. They send me bottles to try out and to review, just like they've done with this one. But for this particular resin, I thought it'd be interesting to see if I could use it in the HeyGears UltraCraft Reflex RS, because this is an ABS-like resin, and technically you cannot officially use an ABS-like resin inside the UltraCraft Reflex RS, even if you're going to be using HeyGears' own resin, because there's no option for it inside of the slicer. But as we have seen time and time again by Greedy 3D, that you can use a wide variety of resins inside of this printer, even the ones that HeyGears doesn't officially say you can use. And he's proved that in a lot of videos, but I don't think he's tried this particular Art-Engineering resin. I may be wrong about that, but I'm gonna give this a shot. And I also wanted to answer another question, or just clear something up about the UltraCraft Reflex RS when it comes to pre-supported models, because I've seen that some folks say you can't use pre-supported models with this printer. You have to use the HeyGears supports, because for some reason it'll just not respond well and it'll mess things up. So what I decided to do was take some miniatures that are already pre-supported, and using this resin on the part 10 setting at the 50 micron layer height, I wanted to see if it would actually work. Spoiler alert, it worked just fine. We can add this third-party resin to the growing list of resins that you can use in the HeyGears UltraCraft Reflex RS and have it print successfully. So once again, it just shows that you don't have to buy the resins if you don't want to. There's a wide variety of third-party resins that's going to work just fine. Like I said, I used the part 10 setting on this. And here are the miniatures that I printed out. And like I said, these were all pre-supported models, and some of them also came without their weapons attached, so those printed separately. So we got a couple here, but then also, just to show, this is a little tiny like bear cub, little panda cub, and this printed by itself with its own little tiny supports, and it also printed just fine in the UltraCraft Reflex RS. And then as far as some of these weapons go, here is an example of this staff that with this ABS-like resin, not only is it supposed to be, strong against impacts, and just, tough in general, it's supposed to also offer some kind of bendability for your parts. So I'm also going to be testing that out right now. So you can see I am bending this staff here, and it's got some really good bendability to it, and it has not broken yet. And I think that this is well beyond what a typical person would try to do with a part like this that bends when they print resin. And you're not trying to break your miniatures, but just in case it happens to bend to a certain degree like this, at least you can know that it's not going to automatically snap when just a little bit of force is applied to it. So that is a good thing. And then also have this other weapon here that has a similar thing going on. It's thin, a little part of it is thin. And yeah, I can still continue to bend this to a reasonable degree and not have it just completely snap. So that is awesome. Oh, and by the way, Jamg He, they tend to give free stuff with their resin bottles. I've gotten USB sticks before. And inside of this particular one, it came with this little bag here. And it came with a pair of extra large nitrile gloves. So that's pretty cool. The way that I kind of look at it is, if you're going to be using resin, you got to swap out the resin that you're already using, and you got to use a pair of gloves for that. So at least they give you the gloves to replace the ones that you use when you put their resin inside of your printer. So that is awesome to see. So even though those pre-supported models work just fine in the UltraCraft Reflex RS with this resin, I've also been able to print several different pieces, like from this Girly Man's Glorious Rowboat in this printer using a different resin, but all those files were also pre-supported and they also came out really, really good. So as far as not being able to use pre-supported models with this particular printer, I haven't seen it because everything has just been working great for me when I use a pre-supported model. So now let's see how strong this resin is with basic drop tests. That's what I like to do, just realistic everyday drop tests, especially with miniatures. The biggest fear is that if they fall off a table and they hit the ground, they're just going to break because resin tends to be brittle. But let's see how this is going to turn out. So all these models are just completely solid. Nothing has been glued on. So let's just see how this works. 3, 2, 1. Taking a look at this guy. I'm not seeing any breakage on him. Let's try again. Nothing broken. Nothing broken. Nothing broken. Nothing broken. All right, so that works out fine for him. Let's try this guy here. See if he breaks. Nothing. 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 Well, let's... Nothing. We can make it bounce. Nothing. 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 Nothing broken on him. Not even like the little spikes, like his shoulder pauldrons. The spikes are still there as well. So that worked out just fine. Last but not least, let's try this guy. Let's see if the bit of this tail might break off. I don't think that it will, but let's try it. Nothing. Oh, there it goes, hit the ground. All right, we got a little bit of something that broke off. Looks like a little tiny part, probably from, I'm not sure where this little tiny part broke off, but he has like a lot of like little tendril thingies flying off of him, but that's just one little small part. Oh. Let's keep on going. All right, so as I do this, you know, that one little tiny part broke off. Maybe there was another little tiny, oh, his arm, a little part of his arm, his left arm has broke off after doing all these random like drops like that, you know? But I also think that this is a somewhat unrealistic torture test for a typical miniature, and people won't be doing stuff like this for no reason, just to see if their model is going to break off. You know, chances are it's just going to be a simple little oopsie onto a floor. And if that is what you're concerned about, nothing's broken off of this guy still. Wow. Not even the spikes. So if that's something that you're concerned about, this resin is good and tough against that impact damage. And yeah, this is his arm. So I could just glue this right back on and he will be absolutely good as new. So as far as the toughness of this resin, yes, it is tough for your miniatures. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just like all the other Jamg He resins that I have tried, I am totally digging this one. It's good, it's tough, and these minis, they got a good feel to them. They're smooth, they look good. I mean, it's just a good resin. I'll leave a link to where you can find this resin. And I also just want to stress, this is also one of those reasons why the HeyGears UltraCraft Reflex, despite its controversies, is such a good printer, because I didn't have to think about adjusting any settings in order to make things optimal. I just chose the PARP 10 setting, poured the resin in, and that was it. Just told it to print and it did what it was supposed to do. And that's one of the great things about this printer. Yeah, I know that people don't like how closed it is, but it does work, and I didn't have to put any effort into figuring out how to make it work, and that's a big selling point of it. One last thing before I go, if you're curious about the smell of this resin, yeah, it's smelly. It is quite smelly. I printed these models, and maybe around 12-ish hours later, I can still smell the fumes in this space right now. And while it was printing, you know, it was heavier than that. So I did wear a respirator when I was cleaning everything up and curing it, because it does have a smell. So if you do have a Resin 3D printer and you do have proper ventilation, I highly recommend it for this resin, because yeah, it was pretty smelly. But that is all for now, everyone. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you soon.